And we're live with Ahmed Rahim, founder and CVO of Numi Tea. It's awesome to have you here, Ahmed.
Jonathan, thanks so much for having me. Great to see you and great to be a part of your program.
Yeah, so for those out there that don't know Numi Tea, don't know Ahmed, I would love to just ask, when people ask you what you do, Ahmed, what do you say?
I just share that I'm here to be in service for that work that is needed on this planet to create a thriving future for our world and for the people that live on it and all the animals and all the soil that we need to regenerate.
And when you've had quite a ride, I think it's been now 20 plus years at Numi. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey, and then maybe we could dive a little bit deeper into where it's brought you today in terms of the other companies and entrepreneurs that you get to work with?
Yeah, so my sister and I started Numi 21 years ago, and it was inspired by this our drink of hospitality from our home country of Baghdad, Iraq, where we're both born, and it's a dry desert lime that's called Numi, and it's drunk predominantly in Iraq as a lime, as an herbal beverage, and it's used in Iran. It's called lemon omani and many other cultures as a cooking spice. And, both my sister and I are artists, and, me entering the entrepreneur world here in the US and also in Europe, where I lived for 10 years, I had tea houses there. So using the knowledge of learning all about teas and herbs and bringing that to the Numi brand to really share all these exotic teas and herbs and bring it in a manner that's really taking care of all the people we work with around the world and regenerating the planet, make sure that the organic and sustainable packaging is forefront in everything we do.
Amazing. And when I met you, I was blown away by the story. So you come, you're in the US, I think you're a photographer, right? And then you go to Europe to pursue art. Is that the inception of Numi? And then kind of were inspired by the tea houses over there?
Sort of, yeah. Good.
Yeah.
It's a good summary. I was, my artistic endeavors was mostly in photography and film, but I learned to paint and play music along the way. But I mostly survived as a photographer. And then I opened up some tea houses. I lived in Europe for about 10 years after New York City, and where I went to university there. And the artistic endeavors evolved as I got more into the entrepreneur world. And starting Numi with my sister was exciting because we really wanted to bring our artistic endeavors into our product and into our brand and into the vision in which we created through the product. So my sister is an incredible painter, and she heads the marketing of Numi still now 21 years later. And she took my photographs on our original packaging and painted them. And that's what blessed the front of our packaging for the first 10 years was her artistic paintings inspired by my photographs. And then we were, bringing poetry and recipes and all kinds of little touches that I think two artists were able to inspire onto a branded product.
So cool in so many places to dive into, especially considering that the organic tea category, the organic natural foods category didn't exist. It had its very inception or beginning, I think, when you guys got going in early 2000s.
Yeah, we launched in late 99. And, back then, you're right, there wasn't a lot of organic on the market when it came to tea. And I don't even think fair trade existed then. So we really pioneered the whole manner of quadruple bottom line business values of really taking care of people and planet and having deep purpose, as well as just our unique edge of how we brought all these herbs that weren't known to the market, from rooibos and honeybush to our dry desert lime, to pu'er, to turmeric, to flowering tea. We really created an innovative edge. And we created this whole authenticity to the farmers and the real pure ingredients, being one of the only brands that doesn't use any natural flavorings or oils was something that I think at that time was fairly cutting edge, because it's amazing how people just douse their teas with flavorings and herbs, as well as, just kind of the the low quality. Everyone was using tea dust and tea pfennings, so we were able to bring a high quality product to the market. So we really just sort of cut through and found our niche. And as we've evolved, we've evolved through really staying true to our values and to the values of this planet and people we work with, as well as innovation.
And then, as just diving a little bit deeper into the founding story, the distribution for organic food has completely changed. What did that look like in the early days? Like, were you just like knocking on doors, getting into local grocery stores? Were you working with big distribution companies? Like, and what was, if there was like a inflection point for the business where you're like, okay, like we're in 100 stores, now we're going to get into 1,000, or maybe you measured that through impact. Would love to dive a little bit deeper into like what the early days look like and when you realized that this was something that, could be a 20-year enterprise.
When I moved here from Europe, I was just coming to, be here for about 6 months, and 22 years later, still here and loving it. Feel honored every day to do this work and to serve in this manner. But yeah, it was an interesting journey. I mean, we grew so fast our first 3-4 years, from 1 million to 3 million to 5 million to 7 million to 10 million in annual sales, just because there was just no, we really hit a niche that wasn't available at the time. And it was literally calling account by account. We really saw that the natural food stores all across the country, the gourmet stores, the high-end hotels, high-end restaurants, we really entered the market with a brand that was, hitting the highest end of the market, from food service to gourmet to natural, cafes, airlines. We quickly became the premium brand on the market, and so that was basically it, until we eventually entered enough stores where distributors, both in food service and in retail, started to pick us up, which made it easier on us, so we wouldn't have to call and distribute to each single individual account. A distributor would partner with us to take over some regions within the country, both in food service and in retail. And that really helped propel us. I think our first year, my sister and I think we did 16 trade shows. We were literally flying, crossing each other, waving in the air from airplane seats. She was going somewhere, I was going somewhere else. And I refused to get a cell phone then, because as an artist in Europe on my farm over there, I wasn't the whole modern day technology. So it was kind of interesting back then to still have my background in just being a more of an artist than an entrepreneur, but that quickly changed.
So cool. And at what point in the journey, Ahmed, did you start to think about advising and working with other entrepreneurs? What was your entry point into getting involved in other businesses? Because I could imagine, like, when you're starting a company, it's your baby, and you want to really give it all your energy. There's a certain point where you're like, okay, that now things are running smoothly. I can start to help this person, or I can start to get involved here. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, I think it's probably from three moments of the journey, and one is me finding great mentors that helped me through the journey and helped me learn the industry. So I found some different mentors and advisors as I was growing, and I needed to learn about what to do just to make Numi successful. And then the other was,
and sorry, Ahmed, who are those folks?
There was some various folks. One gentleman named Drake Sadler, who started Traditional Medicinals. Another, Neil Bloomquist, who was the head of Spectrum Organics. and he came on and really supported us. And there's just a whole host of different gentlemen and some women as well that just kind of I would have as a resource, and they really opened up their company and all of their knowledge of years to support what we were doing, and really believed in what we were doing. So they embraced myself and the company and my sister to really help us. And then the second thing I think was hiring great people. And once I was able to really find some key pillars in heads of departments to really take hold of the business and gain that trust and leadership, and able to empower them to take on a major role in the company, that freed me up a bit more, not just to vision for Numi, but to really open my eyes to see what other people's needs were from the mentorship and advisory I had gained. And then the last is probably through my group that I co-founded with Laura Dickinson, OSC, which we started about 9 years ago. The idea came about 18 years ago. So I already had seen the idea of how do you bring entrepreneurs together to collaborate, and entrepreneurs and CEOs and visionaries that all have sustainable and mission-driven alignment on making this planet a healthier place. And in that, I had seen a chapter which is Rising Stars, which is helping young entrepreneurs. So through that, I had a real intimate interest in working with younger entrepreneurs. And, you get calls all the time and you do it informally. And as things progressed and as OSC developed and as our team at Numi developed, I was able to give more time to other entrepreneurs. And in those first years, I was just helping. But as I started to learn more, and because you learn so much from the younger entrepreneurs, as much as I'm there to support and advise them, I learned so much from them. And then I was able to really identify the people that I wanted to work with, because it's all about the people. And of course, what's their purpose. So I was quickly able to choose entrepreneurs that I believed in, and I believed in what they were trying to do, and that they were making the world a better place as well.
And what is OSC today, for those that don't know? And is it a membership based? Is it just kind of like an informal community? Can we dive a little bit deeper into what OSC is and where it's going?
Yeah, so OSC stands for One Step Closer. It used to be OSC squared, One Step Closer to an Organic Sustainable Community. And it's you can call it a club, but it's a membership of CEOs that all run values driven businesses that care about the people and planet and packaging and sustainability and really mission driven alignment. Brands like Guayaki and Sambazon and Nutiva and Dr. Bronner's and Lotus Foods and Alter Eco and Organic Valley and so many others. I don't want to leave anyone out, so better stop there, because there's about 35 core brands now in the group. Cool. And we meet monthly, and we challenge each other, and we support each other, and we collaborate. And then we do projects for the industry. So we started 9 years ago with the Packaging Collaborative of how do we create a sustainable package that's non-petroleum based, that's compostable. And any brand can join the collaboratives. So there's at least 50 brands that have joined the packaging. And then about 5 years ago, we launched the Climate Collaborative, which now has about 700 plus companies that have joined, much bigger companies, from the Danons to the Unilevers, all kinds of organizations and retailers and distributors have joined, Whole Foods, UNFI. And then last year, after 2 years of heavy lifting, we launched JEDI, Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. And it couldn't have launched at a better time, about a few weeks before the George Floyd incident in May of 2020. We had launched it. And so a lot of attention quickly gained around our JEDI initiative. How do we bring justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion into our industry? Because as you may know, being one that's, from another country, this industry is fairly dominated by a single class, and male and female, but mostly white Caucasian. And I always noticed it entering this industry, that there wasn't a lot of diversity, and inclusion and equity falls in under that. So we launched that, and many brands have joined, and some distributors and retailers. So we've really seen our work at OSC become kind of the heartbeat of the industry. And it rotates, and some of our rising stars that are brands that are a certain size, they graduate and they move into the core. Recently, All Good and Miyoko's and Water, they all graduated from rising stars into the core. And we're just there to really support and collaborate with one another, and find ways to propel each business into new places and new knowledge. And we give resources on many levels, all the marketing and sales and finance and operations. Members of the organizations meet frequently to support one another too. So it's a holistic system. We have an OSC university, and there we give classes. So it's really become a centerpiece, I think, in the natural food industry to shake the tree and really get people to do more.
Sounds like a fun time too. You guys meet at your farm, right? In
We do our annual strategy retreat here at my property near Occidental, and it's pretty exciting to have a bunch of visionaries here for 2-3 days to roll up our sleeves and really think about what do we want to do the next 12 to 18 months. And we learn from everyone, and we do breakouts and just get to know each other more. And that trust and vulnerability builds during that time.
Yeah, there's 2 places I want to dive into from there. One is around purpose and mission versus the actual product. You think about what a company wants to accomplish long term in terms of the communities they want to impact, in terms of the health that they want to drive forward, and then you come down to like, okay, what is the MVP, or what is the individual product that they're going to market with? And in today's world, there is a ton of products on the market. It's getting more and more crowded and competitive in the natural foods world than ever before. There's trends that start up like keto or coconut, and everyone all of a sudden is jumping on those trends. So as you're thinking about coaching and mentoring young entrepreneurs in the food industry, how do you think about straddling both that initial product, what they go to market with, and why? Like, does it actually solve a problem? Is there actually room for it, or is it just a replica or duplicate, versus like staying committed to that longer term mission and kind of figuring out the product as you go along? If that makes sense. Like, I can give a little bit more context. My personal mission, our technology company, has always been around affordability and access to health and wellness. And in tech, you can iterate and pivot and shift direction in order to get to that product that's going to solve a problem in order to get you to that longer term vision. But in food, you have less of that flexibility. So yeah, I'm curious if there's some tips or advice that you share with young entrepreneurs that are getting into the industry.
Yeah, I mean, I always see a product as a vehicle to really drive purpose. So whether you're doing tea or potato chips or technology or another agricultural product, it becomes the vehicle in which you're able to express yourself and really drive major impact. So the most important thing is the connection that we have to it. For my sister and I, we had a connection to our dry desert lime. It was our heritage. It's our drink of hospitality. So we had a deep connection to it, and we had a deep connection to the farmers, and we had a deep connection to the earth, and we had a deep connection to real organic and real ingredients. So that was, the purpose started to align with the product, and vice versa. The product would align with purpose. And it will evolve, because there's so much one person or 2 people or whoever the founders are can do in a single day. And as you evolve your team, you can drive your purpose more. The connection to what you're doing is the most important thing, so that It's really deep in your body. It's deep in your, so it's not just a mental exercise of I'm going to create this widget or I'm going to bring out this product, but it's something that you feel so passionate about, because passion isn't something you learn in school. Passion is something you feel deep in your body that you really have a deep desire to do. And I would say, yes, you can enter a crowded category and still break through. I mean, when we entered the tea category, everyone's like, you're crazy. There's like 50 brands out there. There was 250 brands, but we had a deep passion and we had deep commitments, and those will break through if you're really sticking to them and you believe in it. You know, I mean, you look today, people are still introducing energy bars and potato chips and peanuts and almond butters and whatever it is, you know. But I think innovation, if you can find a small edge of innovation, something that's very unique, whether it's an ingredient that's never been brought to this country or a real pure twist on a fermentation process, or something that's delivering to the audience, something that'll make them feel good and it tastes great, you can carve your way even in a crowded category.
Totally. For me, I get excited. Like I go into a 7-Eleven or, you know, maybe a more conventional food store, and I just see that like there's so much food that I personally still wouldn't eat because it has so much junk in it. And that to me still gets me excited about the opportunities that are in the food industry. And like, you know, most people are still not eating in this way. So there's still, I think, a huge opportunity there. You know, I've heard other pioneers or folks in the natural foods world, better for you products, like Jeff Hollander, the founder of Seven Generation, talk about how, you know, at the end of the day, like their, you know, recycled toilet paper, recycled paper towels and products, cleaning products are still not good. Like they're better. They're not doing as much destruction to the environment, but it's still different than someone like going into their sink and making something, you know, making their own natural cleaning product. And the same probably goes for tea, right? Like you could probably cause a little less impact on the environment if you do loose leaf tea as opposed to buying a product. So how do you guys think at OSC about like environmental impact when sometimes the most idyllic situation would be things that don't cause any packaging or pollution, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I have a belief that every manufacturer is responsible for their waste. So when you are creating a product, you have to think about every single little detail of what you're producing, why you're producing it, and what's the minimal waste you can produce. So what could be recycled, what could be composted, what goes back in the earth. So we just launched, for example, you know, one of the first sustainable compostable overwraps for our tea bags, you know, made of plants. That's no petroleum. Our tea bags are all compostable because there's all those see-through tea bags that are petroleum or GMO based. So you have, you know, I'm a firm believer that we are responsible. And, you know, at OSC through our packaging collaborative and through our climate collaborative, we're driving a lot of awareness about packaging and about transport and about energy use, so that people are making decisions around packaging. And there's some big innovations, you know, now there's bulk stores that you just go in and buy bulk.
Yeah.
You think that's the future? And I think it's going to take some time to educate people on how to really work with bulk and how to have bulk at home, so that you just take your, you know, back in the good old days, you had your milk bottles. And how do we go back to that system thinking of really just having big jars, big containers that you can store stuff in, so you don't have to buy a tiny little plastic cup of hummus or, you know, a little tiny bag of something that you're going to open up and throw out. I mean, look at the plastic water bottle industry.
Yeah.
You literally open that plastic bottle and, you know, 30 seconds later, that bottle is empty, and that plastic bottle is going to be on this earth for another 30 years, 50 years, 100 years. So we do also have to make choices because our vote matters, and our vote is through our purchasing dollars. So we have to also support those businesses and brands that are making conscious choices about how they package products. So we do that at OSC. There's a movie coming out called Seeding Change that the founders of Sambazon have created, that a lot of OSC brands are a part of. And that's really about making choices around how you vote with your dollar.
Yeah, that's huge. At the end of the day, like, that's going to, in many ways, create more changes if people stop buying things. But then it can also start, I think, at the higher level, is if like Walmart or Amazon ban certain things too, that could move the industry forward. So it's like this upswell, groundswell, and then change from the top as well. Ahmed, at this point in the
sorry, I mean, you're 100% right. It takes government from policy change. I mean, look at how many governments have said we're banning plastic bags. How many cities have done that? States, even countries. I mean, even some countries in Africa have banned plastic. Or you take Starbucks, ban plastic straws. Or, you know, Whole Foods has been a big trendsetter of, you know, non-GMO, non-petroleum. You know, it does take both the bottoms up education and choices, as well as top down from corporations, governments, to make big, bold decisions. Because when those happen, one, it creates awareness, but two, it starts to limit those waste stream possibilities. So totally agree with you. And that's what we try and push at OSC, is doing stuff from the lobbying to educating.
Amazing. At this point, Ahmed, in the conversation, I'd love to dive a little bit deeper into you as a human, your background or just perspective, mental models. Your passion shines through your purpose and your commitment to your purpose as sort of being your true and highest calling. I'm curious where that came from. Like, was that always inherent in you? Did it come from your family? Is it something that you've honed in over the years? I guess what I'm asking is, like, what's that balance between your inherent curiosity and drive and ability to create, and then what skills you've had to hone in over the years in order to build what you've built?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question, Jonathan. You know, I think being an immigrant into this country and having been cherry-picked as an immigrant with a lot of racism towards me allowed me to see the world in a different way, especially in this country, as well as being an artist, where I was always thinking outside the box and always feeling I would say, the suffering and the empathy of those that are not in a very fortunate place. And through those decisions and through those, just through that lens, you start to make decisions around why you do what you do. And I've been working with a woman named Carol Sanford, who really looks at what your true essence is, what your core values, your core purpose, and your core process is, which identifies what your essence is as a human. And she helps you find that through moments of your life where you make major pivots. And there's been major pivots that I've had to make, from being an immigrant to this country to really deciding to commit to driving bigger purpose, to also having some major health things happen in my life, where it allowed me to see my core purpose is about creating profound meaning. And my core process is about the multiplier effect of change. And my core value is about inspired empowerment. So when I look at all that, it really gives you the deepest understanding of why you do what you do with who you do it every day. And that comes all about, you know, coming to this country and having handed the cards that I had to deal with. And, you know, and herbs and plants and all kinds of other fun, different things that grow on the earth have really helped me. And, you know, I declared myself a plant, part of the plant species, about 12 years ago. And because I do relate to how incredible these plants enter us and really
Mm.
teach us.
Yeah. So let's dive a little bit deeper into that. So, you mentioned health issues. What have you refined maybe around your well-being practices? You guys are a tea company, or started a tea company that comes around, I think, with tea is not just the plants that you're drinking, but a ritual. There could be a ritual of, unwinding, of relaxing, of disconnecting from your phone, or integrating the lessons of the day, pausing and maybe even rejoicing with people around you in terms of enjoying this experience of drinking plants. So that, just as an idea, like, what other practices have you integrated into your health and well-being journey in order to stay more balanced as you're creating community and creating a brand and creating a company?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned something that I just want to touch on before I get into that, is just, when you look at the cultures and the lineages of all these teas and herbs that we have the privilege and honor to bring into our brand. These people have been doing this for thousands of years. They've been using these teas and herbs in their ceremonies. And when you go to China or Japan or Taiwan, how they do ceremonies in tea, it's not just, put it in a paper cup and put it in your car and go, or, it's not about that. It's really about the moment of being present and really savoring this one pot of tea that you can make 20 times and keep steeping it, and the flavor changes and the nuances change, and the silence around it. And also the herbs, when you go down to the indigenous cultures, where they'll wake up at 4 a.m. and drink guayusa and do this whole ritual in the morning, and even some of the medicinal plants that have alternative effects around. There's rituals around all of these that the indigenous cultures, I think, have taught us, and our job as small little messengers is to translate that. And for me personally, I think the slowing down part is big when you're around teas and herbs, and there's a meditative quality around it. So that is something that I try and find, is the quiet space around tea, as well as obviously practices of yoga and walking. And I try and walk 5 to 10 miles a day, just within my own property, and just being really mindful of how I move my body, and how I enter my body through somatic practices to allow the deepest feelings, because our body tells the truth, and our mind and our emotions kind of get it all mixed up. But you drop into that and find the space to really, whether it's through meditation or just through a moment of silence, you can find that truth and slow things down a bit.
And I think for me, what sticks out, or one of the things that I want to explore a little bit there, is just around balancing your meditative approach, your mindful approach towards living, with that of being a CEO or a founder or a leader who needs to make decisions quickly, oftentimes, who needs to make sure that people are doing what they're there to do. So how do you balance, your sort of more relaxed approach to living, or what, holistic approach to living, with that of being a founder, being a CEO, being a leader? How has it affected or impacted your leadership philosophy?
Well, I'm a true believer that you surround yourself with great people and great things will happen. So I'm a big fan of just finding the right people to partner in the organizations that I either help co-found and co-create, or the ones that I join. Is through great leadership, it allows you to show up in your highest self. And I've been really fortunate, and I feel really blessed to work with amazing leaders. I have a great leader at Numi, who's been with us 17 years, who's our CEO. I have a great leader at the Numi Foundation, who is our executive director, my partner at OSC, who's our executive director, and my sister and partner at Numi, and all the other people that work at Numi and the Numi Foundation and OSC and the organizations. That's the balance, because we're not an island, and nor should we even pretend to be. Whether we're a CEO or a chairman, you want to lean on each other, and you want a team around you that you can really trust and believe in and empower, so that those decisions are filtered throughout the organization and everybody's lifting the weight, so that it's not all on your shoulders. Yeah, there's some hard decisions you might have to make, because you may report finally to the board or to your shareholders or stakeholders. Hopefully it's to all your stakeholders. But at the end of the day, do you want to carry the 500 pounds alone, or do you want to carry it with 20 people? I'd rather carry the 500 pounds with 20 people, because then what does that make it? 40 pounds a person or something, whatever it divides into. That's a lighter load, and it's a lot more fun. And it puts you at your best place, because it's not all on your shoulders. And there's people that, when they believe in the vision and they believe in the purpose, they get just as equally excited, if not more excited, that they're there to really be all of us as servant leaders to drive that vision together.
Ahmed, this has been awesome. Can't wait to do this in real life over a nice cup of tea. I like to end these conversations with just a question around, what are you most excited about as you think about the next 5 to 10 years of your own life, or even the industry as a whole?
Well, I'm excited about the new administration and how that's really starting to put more emphasis on social and racial injustice. I'm excited about the way this administration is really looking at the climate and the global warming issues that we have. And it's giving me hope that there's a bigger awareness out there. And it's those ripples that are now being seeded by not just the administration, but all these incredible organizations that are bringing awareness about soil health, about regenerative, about the racial and social injustices, that more people are becoming aware of all this and want to lean in. People want to do more than they've ever done before to drive that change. And for me, that's super exciting, because I feel like I'm in the hot seat of many different tangents within that, and feel like we can really lean in, and those ripples can grow. And on a personal note, I just it's springtime, and the seasons are changing, and food is growing. And I also am taking more time to make some art and music, which is nice to find that balance and getting back into my creative expression. So I see that over the next, dozen years, to be able to really find that balance of not just the hard work that we do every day, but also the internal work that we do to regenerate ourselves.
Well said. Amen. Thank you, Ahmed. I'm looking forward to making some music with you next time I see you in person.
I would love that, Jonathan. Please, let's make that happen. Thanks so much for having me on your show today.
Thank you. Thanks for all the thoughtful wisdom.
My pleasure. Thank you. It's an honor.